The NFL draft gets closer by the day, and today I'm going to be answering your questions on the black and gold here. I'm sure I'm going to get some questions on the draft, maybe some trade rumor stuff, all these different things. I love these mailbags every single week because it gives you guys a chance to have your voice heard right here on Steelers Talk. And based on everything you guys give to me, I wanted to give a little bit back here. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now to join the most interactive Steelers community right here on YouTube. We have watch parties live for every single Steelers game during the regular season, preseason, and postseason, by the way. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now because we have weekly live shows, all these different things where you can have your voice heard on these mailbags every week. So I'll pause and open up for questions here, starting with Scott Gilbert. Says, I would get an offensive tackle at 20. Let me know what you think. I agree. I think right now, offensive tackle every year. If you're in need of a tackle, if you want to get one, you probably got to get one in round 1. Now, this year, you could probably get a pretty decent one in round 2, but because the Steelers are on the back end of round 2, I'm not willing to roll the dice, all right? So you're sitting at 20. If Talise Fuanga, Amarius Mims, Troy Fontenot out of Washington is there, I'm pulling the trigger on offensive tackle. You can get a good wide receiver on day 2. You can get a good cornerback on day 2. You can even get a good center on day 2 of the draft this year. At pick number 51, what kind of caliber offensive tackle are you getting? I think I'd be praying that Blake Fisher from Notre Dame gets to me, and I don't want to be put in that situation. So I'd rather go offensive tackle. I'm sure the Steelers are going to have a list of tackles that they like at that spot, and if one of them is there, they're going to take the best guy on their board. Plain and simply, expect offensive tackle to be the pick at 20. Then we got one from Brock Walker. Says, should we not pursue a slot cornerback and instead give someone like Darius Rush or Cory Trice Jr. a chance to be at slot? I honestly don't think either one of those guys is particularly fit to play in the slot. They're both bigger guys. The short area quicks isn't exactly what you want it to be for an inside corner. And those guys are known more as like a bigger, longer, outside cornerback type. So if anything, they would move Dante Jackson, who's smaller, great short area quicks. They'd move a guy like that into the slot. But even with both of these guys, Darius Rush barely played last year. So it's like, do they really trust him to be a full-blown starter heading into 2024? And then Cory Trice Jr., of course, missed pretty much the entire season. Even preseason with that ACL tear that he had at the beginning of training camp last year. So do you really trust him to get things going? I certainly don't. I think you got to take a corner by day 2 of the draft, at the very least in round 4. Then we got one from Scatter to West, right tight. And he says, what will it cost to trade for Justin Jefferson? Well, so I was actually talking with our Vikings host here at Chat Sports about it. He thinks it's going to cost 2 first-rounders and a third-round pick. All right, so to kind of visualize it here, this is probably what it would cost: 2 first-rounders, number 20 this year, and a first-rounder next year, and number 84 this year, to get Justin Jefferson. Plus, you have to pay Justin a massive record-breaking contract for a wide receiver because that's what he's asking for. All right, so that's over $30 million per season on his next contract. And it's probably going to get close to 35. So that's like quarterback money for your number 1 receiver. So not only is that a lot in terms of draft capital, that is a lot in terms of salary compensation. But listen, man, some people would argue it's worth it. I mean, Justin Jefferson is arguably the best receiver in football. If you're trying to win a Super Bowl right now and you want a big-time star receiver, you can make an argument Jefferson is the best guy to get that done. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. If you were Omar Khan and the Vikings offered you this trade to bring Justin Jefferson to the Steel City, are you accepting it or are you declining it? Type A for accept or D for decline for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. We got a $10 super chat from Just Webb's World, and he says, is it wrong that I want us to trade up and have 2 seconds or 2 first rounds? Because whoever you want will be there, but only so many guys will be there at 51. Was thinking we trade up into the high 30s. So I'd say Just Webb's World, if there's 2 scenarios where I could see this happening. All right, number 1, you trade for a receiver or you sign a corner or something like that alleviates one of the major needs on your team. Because right now the Steelers have needs at offensive tackle, center, cornerback, and wide receiver. And you absolutely need to address those needs in the draft. And right now, you've got exactly 4 picks in the first 3 rounds, which is where you can expect to get first-year starters. So if you trade up, then you're going to have to completely ignore one of these big needs on your roster, and that's not something I'm willing to do. So the first one is alleviate one of those needs in free agency or via trade so that you can move up then, or trade up and then trade back down like Omar Khan did last year. He traded up for Broderick Jones, then in round 2, traded down a couple of spots and got an additional 3rd-round pick. That's certainly possible as well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if they do that, then fine. But I would be very much against trading up and not trading back down if I were the Steelers, because I don't want to leave any of these major needs on the roster unaddressed. Then we got Joe L. here. He says, how can the Steelers get Jackson Powers-Johnson and Amarius Mims with their first 2 picks? So I'd say you got to take Mims at 20. I think he's an awesome prospect. And then with Powers-Johnson, the rumors are that he's starting to fall down boards because of a concussion issue that he has, right? He's had a couple of concussions there at Oregon. He's had a couple of different injuries. So people are worried about his availability, especially if you're a center and you get your head hit on every play and you have a concussion issue. That is a huge red flag. So that's why he's falling down boards right now. So I think the Steelers could potentially trade up in round 2. Maybe like pick number 47 with the Giants. They're a team that might trade down, trade up a couple spots. If Jackson Powers-Johnson is still there, that's absolutely a move that I would make if I were the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, before we get into the rest of this week's questions on the mailbag, I want to tell you about today's sponsor at Fanatics, because they have brand new, officially licensed Justin Fields number 2 Steelers jerseys available for you guys to purchase right now when you go to chatsports.com/Fields. I mean, this guy is the king of aura. Lots of people believe he is the next starting quarterback, franchise quarterback of this football team for the years to come. And if you are somebody that believes that, put your money where your mouth is right now and get his jersey as a long-term investment. You can go to chatsports.com/Fields to get your Justin Fields jersey in your closet just in time for the 2024 season. Oh, my man Nathan Glass is here. We got a black diamond. What's up, Mr. Glass? Good to see you, my friend. Says, move James Daniels to center and start Spencer Anderson at guard. Your thoughts? I don't like Spencer Anderson to start in this league, personally. I like him as like a depth piece, but I just don't really love that, especially because James is so good at guard. I don't want to mess with that, right? So I would rather get a rookie in round 2 to play center, whether that be Jackson Powers-Johnson, whether that be Zach Frazier, whether that be Cedric Van Pran. One of those guys is going to be available for you in round 2. Can pretty much guarantee that. You can keep Daniels at right guard, Sayamalo at left guard, and then you plug in the rookie to start year 1. That's what I would do. Spencer Anderson, maybe he proves me wrong, but last year when he got opportunities, he didn't really show all that much. So I do not feel comfortable slotting him into a guard spot heading into next year. Then we got one from Tangerine. Says, I saw something that said Darnell Washington might have to retire after another year or 2 because of injuries. Any truth to that? It's hard to know because I don't know, because, he has had a lot of injuries, and he's definitely a big body. If he has another couple of major injuries, it's definitely possible that he's going to have a short career, and he didn't play all that well last year outside of a couple really flashy run-blocking reps. So he's still pretty raw. He showed that last year. But I think that his skill set, if he's going to have success anywhere, it's going to be in an Arthur Smith system where he's going to be allowed to run block a lot. He's going to be able to run. He's going to be able to pull as a tight run blocking tight end, which is going to be scary for opposing defenses. So I'm excited to see what Darnell Washington's going to do. Obviously, there's the possibility that he ends up being just a straight up bust. But with the boom potential with Darnell, I absolutely am excited for his future. So let me know down there in the comments section and predict it. Will Darnell Washington boom or bust with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the National Football League heading into year 2? Type boom if you think he's going to be a success, or type bust if you think he's going to be out of it in a couple of years. Let me go on from Orez. I hope I'm saying that right, my friend. Says, if Mims isn't on the board or JPJ, just take Brian Thomas Jr. or Worthy. So I don't think Worthy's a great fit. I think he's more of just a true burner down the field. And, the Steelers want guys that can run block at the position because that's what Arthur Smith likes. He likes bigger guys that can run block. Worthy is super skinny, all right? So I just don't see him as a fit. Brian Thomas Jr. is interesting, though, because he's that big body, but he has kind of like the same explosive downfield threat ability that Worthy brings to the table. So Brian Thomas Jr., even though I'd rather go offensive line in round 1, if they ended up taking BTJ, At number 20 overall, I honestly wouldn't mind it all that much. I think he's a really good player. I think mixing his ability to win down the field with Russell Wilson's deep ball, I just think is going to create even more problems for opposing defenses heading into next year. Make sure you click that like button right now if you haven't already. If you're a real one, really do appreciate all of your guys' support out there. Then we got one from Tamsin Hurd. There we go. It says, what's your thoughts on Roger Rosengarten? Now, Rosengarten is somebody that I had never heard of before the Senior Bowl. And, when I was going over the practice tapes from the Senior Bowl, I saw this right tackle that was just winning a lot of his one-on-one reps. I'm like, who is this guy? And I figured out he's from Washington. And he was pretty damn good, man. And ever since then, he has tested out of the gym, and he has only risen up draft boards, where now he's expected to be a day 2 offensive tackle in this year's class, and there was already a bunch of really good day 2 offensive tackles in this class. So my thoughts on Rosengarten is that the one thing that he needs to improve on is his play strength. He can get bullied with the bull rush at times, and that's definitely something he's going to have to work on, but he's super athletic, all right, and he plays with good technique, really, really smart player. Which is kind of a theme with these Washington Husky tackles. I mean, Troy Fontenot is probably the most intelligent tackle in this class. Rosengarten is similar in that way, and he pairs that with really great athleticism and movement ability. Pretty decent tape, too. I currently have a round 3 grade on Rosengarten. I'd expect him to go there. And if he's available in round 3, you still haven't taken a tackle, I wouldn't mind if the Steelers took him there at the end of day 3, if I'm being honest. Then we got one from Everyman. Says, what are your thoughts on wide receiver Jermaine Burton out of Alabama? Seems like he's the type of guy Tomlin loves at wide receiver. And I think what he means by that is that Burton has off-the-field issues. All right, so kind of similar to George Pickens when he was coming out of Georgia. Everybody was saying he was going to be a problem off the field. And, with the attitude and all this different stuff, and that's kind of reared its ugly head a couple of times in his first 2 seasons. And they got rid of Deontay Johnson because he was a bad influence on George, whatever that means. So does it really make sense that they bring in a guy like Jermaine who also has off-field issues? I don't know. It certainly fits the mold of what the Steelers like in terms of Mike Tomlin. He doesn't care about these off-field issues because he always thinks he can get these guys to focus in. And Burton is the type of guy that reminds me a little bit of Doug Baldwin. All right, he can win deep. He's a really good route runner, very solid hands, can win at the catch point. Really good player. He'd be probably a late first round, early second round guy if he didn't have the off-field issues. But because he has the off-field issues, I'd say he's probably more of a round 3 guy. So if the Steelers go offensive tackle then center in the first 2 picks, number 84, I could absolutely see Jermaine Burton being the pick. Now let me know down there in the comments section, which day 2 wide receiver would you like to see the Pittsburgh Steelers draft? Okay, do you like Troy Franklin? Do you like Roman Wilson? Do you like somebody else? Let me know down there in the comments section, which day 2 wide receiver would you like to see in black and gold next year? That'll be it for this week's mailbag, guys. I really do appreciate everybody that submitted questions. If you're watching this and you're like, man, I really want to get a question on next week's mailbag, all you got to do is click that subscribe button. Join us for our weekly live shows, Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and come join us and get your question on next week's Steelers Talk Mailbag.